This is the team I usually use for Nightmare Juleeve. This is a manual team. If you want to see the auto team, you can check the description or the pinned comment. I prefer manualing over auto just because Juleeve is already the fastest fight in Nightmare Raid, and it's really easy. So I'd rather just have a 100% manual team. Also, it's because I friendship farm Senya. I friendship farm units here sometimes. And my Senya's not friendship 10 yet, so I'm using her just to get friendship on her. Usually, I actually use Lilias over Senya because it's a little bit better. But this team is really flexible with its slots. Literally, if you have Gala, Destina, or Ray, a DPS, and then either a cleanser or DPS here, it's gonna clear. I think a second DPS, or a second cleanser rather, is a little bit more consistent. But let's get young Senya back in here, and then we can take a look at everyone's stats. So starting off with Destina. Destina, it's just speed, HP, and ideally 200 FRES, though if you use her for PvP or something, and you have her on like the low FRES high bulk build, it doesn't matter. If you have 2 cleansers, you're going to be able to maintain the plague fine. Her S2 EE works fine, you can use whatever. And then for her artifact, I'm using Magara's Tomb just for cycling, but it technically doesn't really matter that much. You could run her with no artifact and it would work out okay. You might as well take a look at her second cleanser. So this Senya, you can also just use whatever you normally use on her. This is my Arena Senya. And I'm using Rekos just for Arena. Just use whatever artifact you normally use. Her stats don't really matter at all, honestly. If you're using like the super fast Senya, that works fine. Like nothing wrong with just spamming S1 more. And then there is Gala. Gala, her stat prio is really just attack, speed, and crit damage. But for her stats, you can just use whatever you normally use on Gala if you use her for PvP or something. Big thing though is you want DDJ on her. This actually does matter because DDJ combined with her S3 makes her S3 do an absurd amount of damage, and she's why this fight is so easy to deal with. Now lastly, I'm using Celine here. And Celine, believe it or not, also works with whatever you normally use on her. Just give her DDJ so she deals some damage. And for EE, it also doesn't matter, just 12% crit chance for the stats. I guess technically the S3 damage one is probably best in slot, but it's pretty minimal. So now we can take a look at the alternative units. So I don't have him out of storage, but Ray over Destina is probably, or he just is the alternative. They kind of just do the same thing in terms of this fight. I'd say Ray is technically a little bit better, but this fight is so easy, there's not really any need to build him if you don't need to. And then instead of Senya here, you can use either Lilias. Like I said, Lilias is my main one, or the one that I normally use. And Lilias also, believe it or not, works fine with whatever you normally use on her. You just toss her in S2 when you need to cleanse, and spam S1s. Also S3 when it is up, so you can, yeah. Anyways, besides Lilias, you could also use Ray or Bernard here in this slot as your second cleanser, or like I mentioned, you can run a third DPS, though I think 2 cleansers is more consistent. For this DPS slot, there are a ton of units that work fine. Wukong works, you can see the auto team uses Wukong. There is also Zahawk. There's Celine, who I normally use. Vildre, yes, technically works. There's no reason that he wouldn't work, just probably worse than a lot of the other options. Luna works too, her S1 does a ton of damage. I use her in my Arahakon team, so I can't really use her here, but even though her S3 has Death Break on it, and even if you don't use S3, her S1 proc will use S3, just time it so that it happens in the break phase, or the split phase instead. Landy also works, and even Vivian would work fine here. So let's get everybody back into their usual slots, and then we can take a look at the run.
길들임 가는 건 즐거운 내 손을 더럽힌다는 것. 영광으로 알거라. 겁내지 마세요. 어리석구나. 또 내 이정의 무기를 보여줘야 하나? 다쳐도 난 모른다. 가까이 구할걸? 네, 힘을 다 해볼까? 넉넉하지 말라고. 빛의 이름으로. 내가 네 곁에 있어. 계획했지. 제 도움이 필요하시. 무릎 꿇고 찬란한 빛이여. 승리가 코앞이네.
패배자는 얌전히
카일라?
몸이 가슴이고
자꾸 괴롭히면 내 친구 죽을 거예요. 네, 제가 한번 해볼게요. 간식 시간이에요.
성광과 같이. 어라? 내 차례인가? 좋은 말로 할 때 들어야지. 이젠 후회도 늦었어.
가까이 오면 후회할걸. 헛된 꿈을 꾼 자들은 말로가 비참한 법이지.
겁내지 마세요. 데스티나의 가호.
길들인다는 건 즐거운 일이지.
찬란한 빛이여. 서쪽의 짐승이여.
저도 다 같이
난
가요.
꺾이는 거다. 개울지 지시를 내리자.
내가 네 곁에 있어. 빛의 이름으로.
패배자는 얌찌근
짠!
좋아요.
좋아요.
승리가 코앞이네. 번개보다 빠르게.
길들인다는 건 즐거운 일이지. 최선을 다해 발버둥 쳐봐. 물론 의미 없는 짓이겠지만.
겁내지 마세요. 또 내 차례라고? 목숨이 아까우면 물러서. 나는 분명 경고해줄까.
가까이 오면
카일라?
나설 때가 됐나.
저도 보기만 있지 않을 거예요.
네. 찬란한 빛이여. 어리석구나. 어라? 내 차례인가?
아멘시아, 지금이야. 이 녀석들을 혼내줘.
And that is it for the run. Really fast and consistent. It's nice because this team just lets you use so many different units in these two slots. These two slots have changed so much ever since Gala released. Like, I've gone through every single Earth unit at this point in these two slots. But that is it, and I'll see you guys next time.